Mira stepped off the bus, her heart beating fast in her chest. The city stretched before her, big, unfamiliar, and full of new possibilities. She had come a long way from her small village in India, driven by the hope of a better life, a fresh start. But as she looked around, Mira couldn't help feeling a little overwhelmed. The streets were busy, the people rushed past her, speaking quickly in a language she barely understood. She had always dreamed of living in a place like this, but now that she was here, it felt different. Mira wasn't sure where to begin. She had learned some English back home, but it was nothing like the fast-paced conversations happening around her now. The words seemed to slip away, and every interaction left her feeling more and more uncertain. But Mira was determined. She knew that this was her chance to change her life, and she wasn't going to give up so easily. She took a deep breath and reminded herself that it was okay to feel lost sometimes. Everyone starts somewhere. With a small suitcase in hand, Mira walked down the street. The city was full of strangers, yet she felt strangely hopeful. She didn't know where she would work or how she would make friends, but she knew she had to try. She was in a new world, and for the first time, it felt like she could be whoever she wanted to be. Mira decided to take the first step by finding a place where she could learn and grow. She had heard about a local community center, a place where people could come together and help each other. Maybe, just maybe, this would be the first place she could start to feel a little less alone. As Mira walked through the doors of the community center, she felt a sense of calm. The warm smiles from the people there made her feel like she belonged. For the first time since arriving in the city, Mira felt that spark of hope she had been searching for. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be days when she felt unsure, when the language seemed impossible to understand, when the culture felt too different. But Mira was determined. She knew that every small step she took was a victory. Every new word, every new friend, would bring her closer to the life she had dreamed of. And so, with a deep breath and a smile, Mira took her first step into this new chapter of her life. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she was ready to begin. As Mira walked through the streets of the city, she couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness that seemed to follow her. She had come here in search of a better life, but now, in this new place, she felt more isolated than ever. The city was full of people, yet she felt like a stranger, like no one could hear her. She knew that if she wanted to truly start fresh, she would need to connect with others. But where could she begin? That's when she noticed something, a bright, colorful flyer hanging on a nearby wall. It read, "Community Center, a place for everyone." Mira stopped and read the words again. The flyer mentioned classes to learn English, social events, and even cultural activities. It sounded like the perfect place for her to start. The next morning, without hesitation, Mira made her way to the community center. When she arrived, she was greeted by a warm smile from a volunteer at the door. "Can I help you?" the woman asked in English. Mira, a little nervous, smiled back and replied that she was looking to improve her English and meet new people. The woman nodded, understanding, and led her to a room filled with people. There, everyone was talking and laughing together, sharing stories in English. Mira's heart lifted as she realized she wasn't alone. This was a place where people from different backgrounds came together, all working to learn and grow. She signed up to volunteer at the center, thinking it would be a great way to practice English while also helping others. The tasks were simple: organizing events, setting up activities, but for Mira, each small task felt like a step forward. Over time, she became more comfortable. She started learning new words every day, and the conversations, which once seemed so hard, became easier and easier. The other volunteers were kind, always offering help when she needed it. They practiced English with her, corrected her mistakes, and celebrated her progress. But more than that, Mira began to build real friendships. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was part of something. She was contributing, sharing, laughing. With every new friend she made, the loneliness she had felt at the beginning of her journey began to fade away. Each day at the community center was a small victory. Mira wasn't just learning English. She was learning to connect with the world around her. She realized that adapting to a new life wasn't just about language. It was about being open, helping others, and finding a place where she truly belonged. And so, with every new lesson, every conversation, and every smile, Mira knew she was one step closer to the life she had dreamed of. Her journey was just beginning, but she was ready to embrace it, heart open and full of hope. Every day, Mira woke up early, determined to improve. The morning air felt fresh, and the sun shone brightly as she began another day. She had set herself a goal: to learn English, one word, one sentence at a time. At first, everything seemed so difficult. The words didn't come easily, and sometimes it felt like she was speaking a completely different language. But Mira was not discouraged. She remembered the advice of her new friends at the community center: don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is a step forward. And so, Mira kept going. She began dedicating a little time every day to study. In the mornings, she would read simple English books, practicing pronunciation and learning new vocabulary. She didn't understand everything right away, but she didn't let that stop her. Every day, she felt like she was understanding just a bit more. In the afternoons, she would listen to English podcasts or watch videos with subtitles, repeating what she heard, trying to speak along with the voices. It wasn't easy, but she could feel herself improving. It was like a small light was turning on inside her, and little by little, that light became brighter. Mira also practiced with the people at the community center. Whenever they had a conversation, she tried to join in, even if her sentences weren't perfect. They encouraged her, gently correcting her when needed, but always supporting her efforts. It was in these moments that Mira truly began to realize that learning wasn't about being perfect, it was about trying, growing, and never giving up. As the days passed, Mira began to notice something amazing. She could understand more when people spoke to her. She could read short stories without feeling lost. And the most important part, she was starting to speak with more confidence. One day, while helping with an event at the community center, Mira had a conversation with a volunteer she hadn't spoken to much before. It was a simple conversation, asking about the weather, talking about how her day was going, but Mira felt a sense of pride. She was speaking English. She was connecting with someone in a way she hadn't imagined just a few weeks ago. Each new word felt like a victory. Each sentence she could understand brought her closer to her goal. Mira's progress wasn't fast, but it didn't matter. Every small step she took was leading her forward. And so, Mira learned an important lesson. Learning isn't about rushing to the finish line. It's about the journey. It's about the patience, the persistence, and the belief that, with every effort, she was becoming the person she had always dreamed of being. As Mira smiled to herself, she knew that she was exactly where she needed to be. Her future was bright, and with each new word she learned, she was one step closer to the life she had imagined. Mira had been working hard to learn English, and now, something exciting was happening. She had received her very first job offer. It was a part-time position as a cleaner at a local restaurant. At first, she felt nervous. The restaurant was busy, and Mira didn't know what to expect. She was unsure if she could do the work, but she reminded herself that every challenge was an opportunity to learn. The first day at the restaurant was both exciting and a little overwhelming. Mira had to clean tables, sweep the floors, and make sure everything was tidy. It was hard work, and the hours were long. But Mira was determined. She moved from task to task with focus and dedication, remembering everything she had learned in the past weeks. As she worked, Mira realized something important. Every time she scrubbed a dish or wiped a counter, She was building strength, physically and mentally. The job was tough, but she was proud of herself for taking this step. She wasn't just doing the work. She was proving to herself that she could do anything if she set her mind to it. Despite the busy schedule, Mira didn't forget about the community center. In the evenings, after work, she would go there to help and practice her English. The people at the center noticed how hard she was working, and they admired her dedication. They understood how difficult it could be to adjust to a new life, and they supported her every step of the way. One evening, while she was helping organize a community event, Mira smiled to herself. She had come a long way since arriving in the city. She had learned English, made new friends, and now she had a job. It wasn't always easy, but Mira had learned something important along the way. Small steps lead to big changes. Her work at the restaurant wasn't glamorous, but it taught her the value of hard work, patience, and resilience. Mira realized that every task, no matter how small, was an opportunity to improve. And even though her days were long, she was building the life she had dreamed of, a life filled with purpose and growth. As she walked home that evening, tired but satisfied, Mira knew that she was on the right path. She was doing the best she could, and that was enough. Every day, she was moving closer to her goals. And that thought made her feel proud, because Mira had learned that success wasn't about perfection. It was about effort. And Mira was giving her best, one step at a time. As the weeks passed, Mira continued to grow. She had now settled into her routine of working at the restaurant and volunteering at the community center. At first, it had been difficult to find a balance. Her days were long, and some evenings she felt exhausted. But as time went on, Mira started to realize something important. Both of these experiences were helping her become stronger, more confident, and more connected to her new life. In the mornings, Mira would wake up early to prepare for her shift at the restaurant. It wasn't easy work, washing dishes, cleaning floors, and organizing the kitchen, but with each task, Mira felt herself becoming more efficient. She had learned to take pride in her work, no matter how simple or difficult it seemed. And each day, she learned new words, phrases, and expressions that helped her communicate better with her coworkers. After her shift, Mira would head to the community center, where she continued to practice her English. The people there were kind, always encouraging her to keep going. Mira had begun to feel more comfortable speaking, and every conversation helped her improve a little more. She was starting to understand the language better, and most importantly, she felt more connected to her community. One afternoon, while talking with a volunteer at the center, Mira smiled and thought to herself, "This is what it's all about." The work at the restaurant and the volunteering weren't just separate tasks. Each one was helping her grow in different ways. At the restaurant, she was learning to be responsible, disciplined, and focused. At the community center, she was learning to connect with others, build relationships, and continue improving her English. Mira realized that the key to her success wasn't just about working hard. It was about balance, finding the time to care for herself, to rest, and to continue learning. She had come to understand that no matter how small the progress, it all mattered. Every effort she made, whether it was helping at the community center or washing dishes at the restaurant, was bringing her closer to her goals. As she walked home from the community center one evening, Mira felt a deep sense of pride. She had faced challenges and doubts, but now she knew that both her job and her volunteering were equally important in shaping the person she was becoming. They were helping her build a new life, step by step. And with that thought, Mira smiled. She knew she was on the right path, one that wasn't always easy, but one that was filled with purpose, growth, and the promise of a brighter future.